Welcome to Veterans in Transition, where we promote the veteran community. Each week, we travel around the region highlighting veteran-related news, issues, and events. Welcome. In this edition of Veterans in Transition, retired Chief Master Sergeant Kaleth Wright, a senior non-commissioned officer who served as the 18th Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. Wright is the second African American to serve in this position. He is often referred to by the nickname Enlisted Jesus by airmen on the internet due to his successful advocacy and reforms on behalf of enlisted personnel. Retired Chief Master Sergeant Jan Adams and Ronnette Meyers spoke with Wright on a variety of issues from race, new recruits, and as the new CEO of Air Force Aid Society.
Today, we're extremely excited to have a discussion with the former 18th Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force and current CEO of the Air Force Aid Society and the first enlisted person to hold the position. We're excited to say that Kaleth is a friend and a friend of ours, and we've been following his journey for many years. We want to play a clip of Kaleth addressing the National Character and Leadership Symposium at the Air Force Academy.
You got to get to know the people that work for you. You have to show them that you care. I would say one of the things that you will have to learn is patience. Because if someone is a bad apple, let's just say like I was, one conversation is not going to turn them around. You're not going to scare them stiff or scare them straight with one conversation. You're not going to take them to lunch one time or have coffee one time and then they'll decide, oh, wow, this is great. I think I'll do better now. So you have to really be patient. You have to really spend time getting to know and understand their story, understand their background, and figure out, hey, where is this behavior coming from? What's causing you to think like this, to act like this? You'll be amazed at once you build trust, how people might open up to you, and then you're in a much better position to use all the tools that are available to you to help them become a better person.
Wow, that is amazing, truly amazing. It just touches my spirit every time I hear that. I don't know, how about you, Jan?
Oh, absolutely. It gets to the core of you, it goes to the core.
So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, number 18, retired, and the new CEO of the Air Force, Kaleth Wright. Yay!
Kaleth, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for that introduction.
Absolutely. And a bigger thank you for your 32 years of military service. We're truly excited to talk to you about the leadership, resiliency, and determination it took for you to rise to the highest enlisted rank in a branch of the United States military. We also want to discuss your transition from the military to the civilian world.
So with that being said, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Yeah, so again, thanks again, both to you, Jan and Ronnette, for having me on. Like you said, we've been friends for a number of years, and I appreciate everything that you guys have done for me and my family. I come from humble beginnings. I grew up in Columbus, Georgia. I joined the Air Force on a whim. I went to college for a little while and it didn't work out. And so I decided to join the Air Force. I was a medic. I was a dental technician growing up in the Air Force. I did a little bit of teaching as a PME instructor. And then once I made chief, then I got into, some of the other key leadership roles, throughout the Air Force. But who would have ever thought that, someone who had no plans to join the Air Force, had no plans to stay in the Air Force, and had it not been for a friend of both of ours, your friend and my Air Force father, I probably would have never made it to where I am today. So, but I'm thankful for the career that I had. I had a really, really good career. I had a great time. Made a lot of mistakes. I had a lot of bumps in the road, but that's just part of the journey.
Great, great. So just a quick question. So as you talk about, you joined the military after you decided you weren't going to go to college early on, or you went for a little bit of time. Was there someone who inspired you to join the military? I mean, how did you shift to that?
No, nobody inspired me. What inspired me was I ended up back home on my mother's couch and back on the same corner that I was on before I left, drinking and smoking and cutting up. And I just said to myself, this can't be my life. I watched so many of my friends, and I watched so many people who came before me do the same thing. Lots of them went off to college. They would come back within a year, just like I did. And then the streets would just grab them. So, I just said to myself, man, there's got to be something better. How I ended up in the Air Force was I was laying on my mother's couch, and my wallet fell out of my pocket, and an Air Force recruiter's card fell out of it. Tech Sergeant Rick Middlebrooks, I still remember his name. And I looked down and I said, hey, I'll join the Air Force. And 2 months later, I was in San Antonio in BMT. So I really had no intentions of being a military man or person. And it showed, and I'm sure Pops Joe Wimbush will tell you, it showed when the very first part of my career that I had no real intention of serving.
Wow. So you said you went to San Antonio. That was your first, is that what you just said?
Yeah, that was my, we all go for basic training.
Basic training. Okay. Where was your first duty station?
My first duty station was Pope Air Force Base, where I met Pops and where I met Jan and the whole crew. And I can't remember if we met back then or not, Ronnette.
No, I don't think I ever went down to Pope Air Force Base, but I knew them, from Germany. So I've known them since I was 9, 10, 11 years old. So, so the military has taught you a lot. It's helped you grow as a person. What do you think that you learned about yourself through the military that has helped you to propel to where you are today?
I think I learned through the military, of course, how to be disciplined, a lot about self-discipline, about doing things that you need to do without having someone tell you what to do. I learned about focus. I learned I started learning as a young man and kind of honed this skill as I grew throughout my career, my life, to dream big, but focus small. It's okay to want to be the president or the chief master sergeant of the Air Force, but you have to focus on the things that are right in front of you and make sure that you're doing the small things and build, good habits on a daily basis that might lead to success. And then I would say the most important thing that I learned throughout my career is the importance of relationships and family. It's been, I can't tell you the number of Air Force brothers, sisters, sons, daughters that I've acquired throughout my time. But not just that part, but the importance of building relationships with colleagues and other professionals, especially when it's not easy. It's easy to build relationships with people you like, but sometimes you have to be willing to do that with people that you may not like, you don't get along with, but you have to work with for the collective good of the people that you serve.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So that's 4 key takeaways for me right there. It's discipline, relationships, focus on family. It's just amazing. I think a lot of that will transition to where you are today as well. And we'll talk more about where you are today, but relationship building is key in this business or in this industry, even in life itself, would you say?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and family, family, they travel all around with us in the military, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to focus on them as well too, and make sure that they have their attention as needed too.
Yeah, and that's life is tough, and I got it, but maintaining your family and taking care of your family, it's a challenge. And I'll readily admit that I didn't always do the best job of staying connected, of communicating with my wife or with my children. And so if I had one piece of advice that I would give people is, make your family a priority, because you only get that your family that one time, and you want to try to keep them together as much as you can. And like I said, this is an area where I really admit I didn't always do the best job.
Right, I understand. And it's that work-life balance too, right? Because sometimes we're so focused on our career, we don't necessarily forget, but we take for granted that they're just always going to be there. But yet we still have to pay them that same attention and build those relationships with them as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, so you're married. You're married. Your wife is also a veteran, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any advice that you would give to other military couples?
Yeah, so Tanya is a 20-year veteran. She was a logistics, a supply troop, for 20 years, and now she works for the State Department. I think the advice that I would give to military couples is, communicate. Use the resources that are available to you, whether it's through Military One Source or whatever. Don't be afraid to go to counseling. Don't be afraid to reach out to friends and family when you need help. There are some jobs, this last job I had was one of them, but there's lots of other folks. You don't have to be the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force to have a very busy job, to be deployed, to be away from your family all the time. And so it takes a lot of communicating. And if you don't have those skills, and if you're not committed to it, then it can lead to some real problems. So that's the best advice I think I can give is communicate.
I love that. And what would you say about your children now? I was a dependent as well, right? So I traveled with my mom, I traveled with my husband, but as a dependent, as a child, going from school to military installation to military installation, how about your children? What would you say are some words?
Yeah, I think the important thing that I would say to parents about children first is allow them to be themselves. They're not in the military, so all the stuff that you do with your troops at work, you can't always bring all that crap home and try to treat them like they're in the military. Let them make their own decisions about what they want to do in life. All you can do is teach them the right things to do and let them make their own decisions of whether they want to join the military or go to college or do something else. And then be patient with them. The amount of stress that they come upon from going to different schools, from living in different places, it can be tough, especially once they get into high school. Most kids, when they're younger, and my kids were the same way. When they were younger, moving into first and second grade, they made friends, pretty easily. Trying to move them in high school was tough. So I would just say, as a parent, be patient with your kids and allow them to become the best version of themselves, and not necessarily. There's already enough pressure for them to have to try to live up to be who you are. So just let them be themselves. And to the kids, the children of military parents, same thing. Be a little bit patient with your parents. The being in the military is demanding, is stressful. Most parents want the best for their children, so they really are trying to look out for you. So I think it takes a little bit of patience on both sides. And then I'd say take advantage of the opportunities that you get as a child to travel, to learn and understand different and new cultures and make new friends. And it's a lot easier today because of social media. You can stay connected to your friends. Leaving is tough sometimes, but it's not as tough as it used to be when all you had was letters and the big rotary telephone to try to call your friends.
Yeah, exactly. Dialing from one base to another to try to get them to connect you to,
right.
A civilian life. Because I was in Honduras when Ronnette was in Bahrain with her husband. So I would call DSN from Honduras to Bahrain and get them to connect me to her civilian line so I could speak to her. So yeah, it was, it got to be a little tough, but no, you know, and it's interesting because my children, when people ask them, well, your mother was in the Air Force, in the military, what about you? Did you ever think about joining into service? And their answer, especially my son, was absolutely not, because they used to listen to security police when they'd come by about 3 or 4 in the morning with the bullhorn, said, alert, alert, you know, everybody report to your duty station. And they were like, oh no, we're not doing that. So
yeah. My kids were the same way. They didn't want anything to do with the military, and they're all doing well. 2 of them are college graduates, and 1 has just started his college career. And he's thinking about it, but for the most part, they wanted to blaze their own trail, and they've done a great job. I'm really proud of them.
Yeah, you know, and I was okay with that. You know, it's not for everybody anyway. We all know that. So, yeah. So I'm going to embark on a little tough subject. You know, I of course, you know, even though I've been retired for 20 years, I still pay attention to what's going on. You know, cases of sexual harassment, the suicides are just, you know, just heartbreaking. You know, the issues resulting from social unrest and other influences, the other things that's going on in the country. You know, we have an alarming amount of homeless veterans. There's so many issues confronting our young airmen today that we had our own things to deal with, but I don't think they were even half as bad as some of what they're dealing with today. How do we begin to help them?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we can do is, 1, make sure that they have good leadership at the ground level. It's great to have a great commander or a first sergeant or chief master in the Air Force or what have you, but the people that mean the most to those airmen and their families are their immediate supervisor and the environment that they have to go into every day. So one of the things that I think we can do better is making sure that we have good supervision at all those levels with, you know, young supervisors who are equipped with the right leadership tools and skills to help them through some of these challenges. We also have to realize that, and this is, you know, you mentioned, you know, back in the day, one of the things that I think we have to get out of the mindset of is, you know, back in my day, you know, life is different. The world is different. So many things are so different, and they communicate differently. They cope differently. And sometimes I think we as older folks, we get set in our ways about how they should respond to us, how quickly they should respond to us. Now, I got it. Discipline is discipline, and I don't believe in lowering the standards for anybody. But General Welch, the previous chief of staff, you know, two times ago, right before my time, you know, he always said every airman has a story. And in order to get the most out of them, you got to get to know them and figure out what that story is. And that takes a lot of engagement. It takes a lot of time. I personally, and this is something that I was trying to do when I was in the Air Force, and I really wasn't successful, to be honest. I personally think we allow people to be supervisors too early in their career. We should push the time back that they get promoted to staff sergeant, which is when we allow people to start supervising. I wanted it to be about 6 years. I wanted people to be in the Air Force for a minimum of 6 years before they're eligible to supervise. Right now, they can supervise at 2.5, maybe 3 years is average. Because I think the more experience that you have, the more time you have to grow and understand yourself and the Air Force and how to help these airmen, the better off you are. But
I agree with that. I think I became a supervisor when I was a senior airman, but I didn't go into service until I was 27 years old. So, and I was a single parent. I was divorced with 2 kids. So, you know, different circumstance, different situation, but I agree that I think that's a great idea, what you just said, definitely.
You know, another thing I would say is recognizing they're all different. You might have 5 people that work for you, and they're all going to be different, and you can't treat them all the same. You can't have one leadership style that just says, hey, I'm tough and I tell it like it is, and you got to adjust and like it or not like it. I mean, you have to spend the time to get to know each one of them and figure out the best way to motivate them to, like I said, become the best version of themselves.
Yeah, one size does not fit all, for sure. So you know, I'm involved with a group of retired Chief Master Sergeants. We meet every so often, and you know, just to kind of shoot the bull, so to say. But you know, we always talk about, you know, what we can do to give back and maybe help some of our young enlisted women, to encourage them. And you know, we've been brainstorming to try to, because we had a conversation with you, and you explained to us that it's though our young women are not staying long enough to fill a lot of those top ranks, as well as fill a lot of those top key positions, those decision-making positions. So so we're you know, we're going to work with you, as I mentioned before, and see what we can do to give back and try to help some of these young women. So.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. I think mentorship is really important. You know, I appreciate all of your efforts, but the real onus is on the Air Force. And we need to just do a better job of creating opportunities for our females. We need to do a better job of making sure that females get the opportunity to serve in key leadership positions so that they can be role models. And you don't have to be in a leadership position to be a role model, but there is something to be said about looking at the wall of, you name the organization, and walking in and being able to see someone who looks like you, so that, and you know, it processes in your mind that, hey, I can achieve that as well. When you don't see it, and in some cases when you've never seen it, the thought starts to creep in, sometimes consciously, but probably mostly subconsciously, that hey, there's never been a female chief of staff. There's never been a, you know, there's only been one or two female MAJCOM commanders. So I don't know that it's possible. Let me bail out while I can.
Right, exactly, right.
So since retiring, what do you see was your greatest achievement as a Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force? Are there any decisions that you made during your tenure that you think you would change looking back on your career?
No, to be honest, none of the decisions, the stuff that we changed really stands out, because, you know, as the crow flies, either Chief Bass or the next chief will change it all back, right? Just like I changed a lot of the stuff that my predecessor changed. What I see as our greatest accomplishment, I think, was we did, to some extent, change the culture. We made people feel like they had a voice. We connected at every level, from 4-star generals all the way down to airman basics. We gave people hope that they could achieve whatever goals that they had, and so I'm just thankful and proud of the fact that we were able to help so many people. Some with some of the programs and decisions that we made, but we also engaged a lot on the interpersonal level. So I made a ton of friends. I got a ton of young friends that we were able to help out. Some with very personal situations. We had, you know, I have a couple of friends that are, you know, cancer survivors, or that we lost to cancer, and then some with career stuff, you know, helping them get their careers back on track. So that was the most fulfilling and rewarding part, is creating a culture where everybody felt like they mattered and had a voice, and then helping as many people as we could. And obviously we couldn't help every single person, but I think we created an environment that allowed people to have mentors and find mentors, and know that if they could somehow get it in front of me, I'd at least listen, and there's a chance that it'll get done.
That's wonderful. I love it. Changing the culture and providing hope, giving people hope. I love that. And we met Chief Bass at the ceremony. She seems like a dynamic young woman who is going to definitely make some wonderful things happen. And I believe changing the culture will be a continuation of what she's done.
Yeah, Jo is going to do great. She's a good friend. We've been friends for a long time, and I'm really proud of her. I'm just sitting back watching her grow. You know, I gave her some advice going in. I try not to give her too much advice. You give her a lot of advice before she replaced me, and then after she replaced me, I laid off on the advice and counsel. But the one thing that I did tell her is, hey, it's your job now. And so don't worry about me. Don't worry about offending me. You change, you do whatever you want to do. And I had my time and I did the best that I could. And I expect you to do the same, because sometimes you go into, when you replace someone, you know, you have this, well, I don't hope so-and-so is not offended that I've changed this or didn't do this or not doing it the way that he did. And so I wanted to make it clear to her, hey, you do whatever you have to do. I got a whole nother life and responsibility that I got to take care of. And I trust you and the rest of the team to get after the stuff in the Air Force. And you can change, if you change everything that I did, it won't make me any difference.
I love it. I love it. Was there any one thing that you wish that you did accomplish before you retired?
You know, we were working on some fitness stuff that I wish we could have got across the line, improving the fitness program, making it more flexible. And then our performance management system, our appraisal system of sorts, we were doing some work that we just couldn't get across the finish line because I think that will make a huge difference in the lives of some of our airmen, smoothing out that process. I wish we could have gotten more females, more minority females into positions of leadership. I felt like I didn't do as good enough job taking care of that. And I really wish I had paid more attention to the disparity in rate and justice amongst the young African-American males that came to light right toward the end of my time. In all honesty, I had heard about that really before I started. And then you know, just to be perfectly honest, I let it fall off the radar because I didn't hear much about it until that report came out again toward the end. So I take a lot of responsibility for not paying enough attention to that and helping from a headquarters level to make sure that somebody was on it, somebody was paying attention, and that we were correcting the ship in terms of making sure that all airmen, and in this case specifically the Black male airmen, were getting getting a fair shot when it came to justice.
Yeah, no, I love that when you talk about injustice. And you had a post on LinkedIn about what was happening with social injustice, and I thought it was absolutely powerful to see you as the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force to post that, and it went viral. I mean, you hear a lot of comments. There was a lot of positive comments from that. Do you want to expound on that at all?
Yeah, so there were a lot of positive comments, but there were some negative comments too, which I was okay with. But I just felt like it was important for me to speak out. I had a lot of anger, like a lot of other people. I thought to myself, this could easily be me. I drive up and down the Beltway and I see blue lights, and this could easily be me or any other Black person, regardless of your rank. And so I just wanted to find a way to channel some of that anger that I was having and express to people that I understood what they were feeling. I also felt a sense of responsibility because a few Black airmen actually reached out to me and said, "Hey, Chief, what's the Air Force's stance? How do you feel about this?" So I felt like people were waiting on us, and we were late to the party, but I knew people were waiting on us to have an opinion about it. I did feel like, even though we had a great PA team, and I felt like if we would have went a more official channel, it probably would have been a less gratifying. It certainly would have been less controversial. So I just, felt the need to speak out, and luckily I had a great boss, General Goldfein, who supported me the entire time. He loved it. He sent it to a few of his colleagues, some Black retired 4-star generals, and they all, thought it was right. It was spot on too. So, but again, I did receive some negative feedback, and I was okay with that. I knew some people would miss the point, and that was perfectly fine.
Yeah, no, thank you. I thought it was definitely a powerful statement. So thank you so much for sharing that. And we'll talk about a little bit about transitioning out of the military. Is there any advice that you can give to some of the folks who are thinking about transitioning out or about to? Any advice that you can help them as they start their next journey?
Yeah, Will Smith, man. Hey, Will Smith, I heard him say it one time, if you always stay ready, you ain't never got to get ready.
I love it.
My advice is, you know, have a plan today. Not, hey, next year I'll start working on my degree. Next year I'll build my resume. 2 weeks from now I'll do this. You know, have a plan today, because if you woke up tomorrow morning and you decided, you know what, I'm ready to do something else, then you need to have the flexibility and have all your ducks in a row, whether it's money saved or education or certifications. You need to have done the networking that's necessary to be able to be successful when you get out. So I would say readiness, you know, start thinking now. You don't have to wait until you hit 20 years. You at 10 years, 12 years, and certainly once you get within a couple of years of retirement, you need to start really. And I guess I would go back and add in the maybe the most important thing is decide what it is that you want to do. I have some friends whose strategy is, hey, I'll just get out and I'll go wherever the wind blows me, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think a better strategy is deciding, well, I've been a logistician or a cyber operator for 20 years, and I love it, and I'm going to keep doing it, so I'll find a job doing that. Or you might say, hey, I was an intel or a logistician, but now I want to go be a teacher, or now I want to be, you know, go into cyber. So I think the first thing is you got to decide what it is that you want to be, what your life might look like, and then start getting ready today. Start networking today. Start working on your education and your certifications today, so that when the time comes, and it's going to be stressful, but when the time comes, you'll at least have some confidence that, hey, I've done all the things that I need to do. Now let me just hand it to the universe and see what happens.
Yes, I love that. And one thing that you said earlier too, start building those relationships, because those relationships are key as you're transitioning out of the military when you're looking for employment, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if you study, you know, HR and hiring managers, they'll tell you that 95% of their hires come from referrals. Unless you are an astrophysicist or something like that, not many people are going to get hired because they have a great resume. Your resume might get you in the door, but then once they start sorting those things out, they're going to start calling Ronnette and start calling Jan and saying, hey, this is K Wright guy. You know him? Tell me what he's all about. What kind of character does he have? What about his work ethic? And that will make or break you. And you can like it or not like it, but that's the reality of you know, how it works. And not just outside the military. To a certain extent, it works like that some in the military too. But certainly when you get out here and you can put as many resumes as you want on Indeed and all that type of stuff. I had them all out there. But had it not been for a great boss who recommended me, and Lieutenant General Kelly and a few other folks who supported me, I would have never gotten the job that I got just based on my resume or what I did when I was in the Air Force.
I love it. I love it. And another question is, I see the Omega Psi Phi behind you.
Oh yeah.
I love it. I love it. So tell us, you know, a little bit about the fraternity, meaning how did it help you propel to where you are today?
Yeah, so I pledged in 2003. I didn't stay in college long enough to pledge, but my older brother is a Q, and so I always wanted to pledge Omega. I finally got the opportunity. The minute I finished my bachelor's degree, which you have to pledge in a graduate chapter of mostly all of the Divine Nine, and but it's helped me tremendously. It's helped expand my horizon. It's helped expand my network. Many of my frat brothers are civilians. Or in other services. And so just being able to connect with lots of people, to learn and grow, to have mentors, to have colleagues and friends that can help you out in various situations that you can talk through when you need advice from a lawyer, an accountant, a doctor, I mean, you name it, that we have bros, as we refer to them, in every profession in the world. And so it's just been a fantastic opportunity, not just as a professional, but as a man on my journey in becoming a better man. It's been extremely helpful, just being in the presence of some other great men. I'll just say one other thing is the amount of and commitment to the community that not only Omega, but again, all of the fraternities and sororities have done just some amazing work through mentoring and working with the homeless, blood drives, tons and tons of scholarships, not only to HBCUs, but to, all kinds of universities. So that's another thing that's been really, really good for me is the amount of community service that I've been able to put in through the fraternity.
No, that's wonderful. Yes, absolutely. I just want to reach out to everybody and say, don't forget to put any questions that you may have on the chat or in the Q&A. I think we have one, Kaleth, and this lady is a friend of mine. She is retired ambassador to a Central African country. I think it's called Central Africa, if not mistaken. Her question is, what was the most racial related challenge you had to endure as you climb the career ladder to success?
The most race related challenge I think I had was trying to figure out which challenges were race related. There were times when I didn't get selected, or I had a supervisor who was coming down on me, who denied me an opportunity. And I'll be honest with you, my gut told me that it was because I was Black, but I had no proof. And then I found myself every time something didn't go my way, and there was a white person involved that was making a decision of determining or deciding for myself, is this because I'm Black? So that actually was the hardest challenge, was trying to figure out, how much of this is because, hey, I'm just not ready, and how much of it is truly based on race. And I had a hard time with that throughout my career. Again, you want to trust your guts, but there's, at least throughout my career, there weren't many people calling me the N-word. There weren't many people saying that, hey, there's a reason that you can't do this. But I did have some experiences that I thought were race related. I applied for a commission when I had about 11 years in. And I had, some pretty good records, I would say, at my 10, 11 year point. And I had a colonel, an older white gentleman, sit down and tell me, really to my face, hey, you'll never be an officer in my Air Force. And he made up, he gave me a reason that didn't make much sense to me. And I immediately left that meeting thinking that, hey, this is because I'm Black. And I didn't have any proof, but I had many experiences very similar to that, where my challenge was inside my head of figuring out, okay, is this about race or is it not? I'll tell you what I did though. I decided that if race is the only thing that people will be able to use to stop me, that's going to be the only thing they have. Because when it comes to how I perform, how I speak, how I write, how I do my job, how I take care of my troops, they won't have any excuses. So if that's all they got, then so be it. I can live with it.
Right, great answer. And I definitely can relate to that. Another question is from Jessica, and her question is, what was one of your proudest moments as Chief Master Sergeant?
I don't know that I had anything that really, really stands out, but I would say the collective of watching the folks that I supervised previously or I mentored previously get promoted, get commissioned, achieve their goals, reach retirement, the letters and the cards that I would get when someone that I had a relationship with achieved some level of success and they said, thank you. When I was a Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force, I used to get a real kick out of, I was on the road about 290 days out of the year, but people would still visit the Pentagon and visit my office, take a picture at my desk, and then they post it on Facebook, saying, hey, this is my future desk. I'd always come back to a stack of handwritten notes from people who stopped in and just wanted to say hi or say thanks. And so that I was really proud, and I think those things made me feel really good that we were having such a huge impact on people at all levels. I mean, it was from young airmen to senior officers and even civilians, Air Force civilians, and even some of my Army Navy and Marine Corps counterparts would stop by or leave me notes or what have you.
Very nice. Yeah, and I must tell everybody that out of 19, the Air Force has only had 19 Chief Master Sergeants of the Air Force, and only 2 of them were Black. And Chief Thomas Barnes and Chief Kaleth Wright. So, you know, that's amazing. That is amazing. I'm not sure. I think all the other services, I'm trying to remember if I know most of them have had at least one. I'm not sure if all of them have had at least one. I don't recall.
Yeah, I think they've all had at least one. I don't know about the Navy. I know the Marine Corps has had a couple. The Army has had a couple. I'm not quite sure about the Navy or the Coast Guard.
Okay, but that's an amazing feat in itself. Now we have another question. How do we keep the younger generation interested in joining the military and seeing it as a viable when they're starting their career, starting their career path? Yeah,
I tell you how we do this. And we have not done a good job of this. We got to invest in better technology. We got to make the workplace an environment where they want to be, where they can come to work and have an important mission, but have fun. We got to have an environment that promotes innovation, because these young people, they're smart, they have lots of ideas on how to do things better. And if they come into the Air Force and the first thing that they hear is, we always done it this way, and when we can't do it like that and just shut up and color, then they'll never see the Air Force as a viable option. Again, I'll just reiterate that life has changed, technology has changed the world. You know, things like what we're going through now with teleworking and flexible work options and all that type of stuff. I think these are things that you have to consider as normal parts of being in the military. The old school, old fashioned way of, hey, just shut up and do what I told you, that just doesn't work anymore. And I think we as an Air Force need to adapt in order to attract and retain the type of people that we need going forward.
There is actually another question in the chat. It says, as a non-veteran, I find it important to say thank you for your service to all veterans I meet. I just finished reading You Are Worth It, written by Kyle Carpenter, the youngest Medal of Honor recipient. In the book, he talks about his initial struggle on how to respond. How can those that didn't serve properly share appreciation and thank you for your service?
Before you answer that, Kaleth, I want to tell you that the gentleman who wrote that question, Jason, I'll just say his first name, is with the DAV. He's in charge of a lot of the philanthropy aspects of the DAV. We make contributions every year, and he's my point of contact. And he does so much for disabled American veterans. And I didn't even know that he wasn't a veteran because I thought he was. That's how deep he is into it. So I'll let you go ahead and respond to that question.
Yeah, so I think, Jason, the best way to continue to show appreciation to veterans who have served in whatever capacity, 30 years or 2 years, is, you know, the small things. I think we all can get beyond. Now, we all like, you know, a military discount and 10% off our cheeseburger and all that stuff. We can get beyond that. But I think people typically enjoy when someone says thank you for your service. It might make some people feel uncomfortable, and I understand that. But, you know, most of us appreciate just a small thing of somebody recognizing that you served. Any type of kind gesture, any type of random act of kindness, I think is appreciated by all veterans. And then certainly making sure that you know, veterans, the benefits that you gain, whether it's through the VA, or I know in some states are better than others in how well they take care of veterans and particularly disabled veterans. But I think all those things are the material things where you save time and money are helpful. But what's really helpful in my mind are the small gestures of appreciation.
Well, that's great. I don't see any other questions here. Are there?
Oh, okay. I've got one. It says, I have ran across a multitude of Air Force business-minded veterans. Is business something that is taught in the Air Force, throughout their career?
Not in the traditional sense. However, what you have in the Air Force is essentially business leaders at all levels. We have contracting specialists, we have financial managers and analysts, we have civil engineers who manage, millions of dollars in housing and real estate. And just about any business you can think of, you have those same types of people in the Air Force who do the same types of things that civilian companies do. You have people with entrepreneurial spirits in the military. So I don't know that we necessarily teach business classes outside of, in contracting and some of the other areas. But you have people that develop business savvy just through the normal job that they have in the Air Force. And then I would also say lots of people take advantage of opportunities for secondary education. People get their master's degrees and bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, PhDs in the Air Force, as well as certifications and things that are very helpful. But in the traditional sense of do we teach business management classes, I would say not.
That's great. That's great. Another question is, how do you deal with being a young African-American and successful during your journey? I'm finding that being a successful African-American woman is hard in today's world. Can you provide any advice?
Yeah, it comes with the territory, right? There can be no Frederick Douglass. There can be no progress without struggle. Success breeds envy and jealousy and hatred and all that type of stuff. But what I would tell you is that's their issue, not yours. And so don't carry other people's issues. You have to take the good with the bad. Some people will be your cheerleader and cheer you on, and then some people will be haters, as the young people say today. And you have to be okay with that. But I would say stay focused on and make sure you understand what it is that you're trying to achieve, and don't allow people's negative energy to throw you off your goal. Success is hard. Success is challenging. And I think it's designed that way. But you show me a successful person, and I'll show you a person who's failed, a person who's had struggles, a person who's dealt with stress, who's dealt with negativity. But again, stay focused, keep your eyes on the prize, and you'll eventually get through all of that. And then surround yourself with good people. Make sure you surround yourself with the people who truly support you.
I love that. I love that. Another question. Thank you, Kaleth. I appreciate your transparency on the importance of networking and referrals. I am curious if you could expound on how you've been able to cultivate and maintain those connections.
I think what's been important to me is authenticity. And I connect with people that I truly enjoy being around, that I truly think that I can offer something to. And if they can offer something to me, I think that's great too. So I've been able to maintain the connections because I don't have any really pure business connections. All of my connections, we're either friends or colleagues. We like each other. We check in on each other. And so that's helpful in maintaining, relationships, building relationships and maintaining them. If you set out to say, hey, I'm just going to email and try to connect to as many people as I can to see how much I can get out of them, there's a good chance that you won't be able to maintain those connections because those people won't want to have anything to do with them. So I would just say be authentic. I've met some people that probably would have been really, really good contacts for me, but there was something either in their character or something in how they saw the world or something that said to me, this is not a person that I want to be friends with or be around. And so I'll forego whatever opportunity might come along by being friends with them. And at the same time, there's people that I know can help me in any way. but I love them to death. I love being around them. I love them as friends, and I keep them as part of my network. So be authentic in your relationships.
Lynette is out of Atlanta, Georgia. She's trying to get her business up and running. Her question is, does the Air Force have any resources to help Air Force children to deal with PTSD? I think this is overlooked on how the children are really impacted, moving from place to place, never really building relationships like children that don't move around when their parents are not in the military.
Yeah, the Air Force, that's actually a really good point and a good question, but the Air Force does have resources. All the services do, primarily through Military One Source. And I think those resources are available to all families. We don't get near enough use out of Military One Source and the network of professionals that provide those counseling services to families and service members. But I would say that's the best place to start.
So Kaleth, CEO of the Air Force Aid Society. Now, I have to say that the Air Force, going into service as a divorcee with 2 young children, the Air Force Aid Society came to my rescue on so many occasions when I needed some funds for this or funds for that, because being a no striper or a 1 striper or 2 striper with 2 children was very trying at times. So, you know, there were times when I needed some food or I needed something, and they never, ever said no to me. So I'm so appreciative of that. So I want you to talk about the Air Force Aid Society, you know, what it is that they do, and, you know, what your goals are to, you know, to make it even better, I'm sure.
So most people might not realize, but the Air Force Aid Society has been around since before the Air Force. Air Force Aid Society goes all the way back to 1942, when most Air Force people anyway have heard of Hap Arnold, when Hap Arnold and his wife Bee decided to establish this organization to help out families of you know, veterans returning back from the war. But essentially what we do is, you know, we do 3 things. I put it in 3 buckets. We provide emergency assistance. So folks like what Jan just talked about, if you find yourself in a pickle, if the hurricane hits your base, if your car breaks down, there's any number of things that we provide. In some instances, we provide a no interest loan. And then in other cases, we provide a full out grant. We also provide about $6 million a year in scholarships, some based on need and some based on merit. And then the third thing that we do is we have some community programs. So most Air Force people probably know about spouse employment seminars that happen on a base, bundles for babies for spouses of pregnant spouses of deployed members, and we also do if the active duty member is deployed, we provide free oil changes to the spouse and the family when they're back home, and a few other community-based programs. We're thinking about expanding to getting into some financial education and readiness and making that one of our lines of effort. We always want to expand the amount of money we can give out and the number of people that we can give it to. In total, we give on average about $17 million a year in between emergency assistance, scholarships, and community programs. And so we're always looking to raise money so that we can give money and help as many airmen and their families out as we can.
Okay, great. So one last question for you. You know, we've just been grateful for your time and, you know, all your expertise. What would you say to yourself if you knew then what you know now? It would be like a note to self.
Kaleth, get your act together, brother. I think I would say a couple of things. One, I'd start off with discipline yourself so others don't have to. you know, somebody always had to tell me to get up on time and go and do this and take care of this and whatnot. So I was very undisciplined as a young man. If I could give myself a note, it would be first and foremost, hey man, discipline yourself and don't have other people having to do the work for you. I'd also tell myself, be a dreamer. There's nothing on this planet that you can't achieve if you put your mind to it, and it ultimately did work out for me to become the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. But you know, dream big, and again, focus small. And then I think the last thing I would tell myself is, Kaleth, live with no regrets. Right? Tomorrow is not promised to any of us, so all the time that you spent talking about what you're going to do, what you're trying to do, and if this and when that and all this, just do it, right? I think as Yoda, I used to tell my basketball team this, there is no try, you know, you do or do not, there is no try, right? So stop trying to be this and thinking about doing that, and one day I'm going to be, just do it, right? Live with no regrets, and it's okay to fail. Sometimes it comes with success. Don't be afraid to fail. Be a dreamer. Live with no regrets.
That's all for this edition of Veterans in Transition. We ask that you like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. If you have a story to tell, reach out to us at info@vetsintransition.com. Remember, flow in the spirit of your purpose. Stay relevant, stay connected. Until next time.